We want 70 million baseball fans to rethink their own experiences, present, past. We want agencies that may have not known anything about this to possibly say something like, we should have heard about this 40 years ago. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming back to another recording of Foul Ball Safety Now Talks. I'm Jordan Skopp. I'm here with Brianna Ludwig. We're in late November, just before Thanksgiving. The World Series has concluded, and we do have some news as usual. I've been doing Foul Ball Safety Now for about 6 years. I've been with the journalist for about 6 years, and also Brianna Ludwig's been with me for over a year. So it's really great that we contribute to bringing news and bringing more research and always bringing things that people may not have been aware of. So we effectively want to start a conversation of foul ball safety now. As I started 6 years ago, after I saw a little child get seriously injured on national news, I had some ideas it was an issue, being a baseball fan and being knowledgeable about foul balls and potential harm it could do. I've been at it ever since. So people can see foul ball safety now if they haven't seen it before. I think we've chronicled a lot, and everyone can see all the tabs and all the exhibits, which we'll always get to sometimes during these conversations. But I always like to bring news because if I'm going to continue working with Brendan, I want to keep on bringing the news that we're discovering and we're reporting on our website and different chapters we're putting together for book or series, whatever it will be. We believe the most baseball fans are going to be willing to learn about maybe something they may have missed, which was part of their experience, so they could then decide for themselves how they want to rethink their own experiences once we bring them all of this information. But some news I put up on the website just a couple of days ago. I put up a new tab called Freedom for Baseball Players. So we believe, based on the Queens College investigation that's going on right now, people can go to Foul Ball Safety Now and look at the tab, Queens College investigation. They'll see that we had written a fourth letter earlier this month to the Queens College administration, and we hope that the administrators and now the college administrators will now get involved because we've copied them as well. Queens College is part of the NCAA. There are 50,000 college baseball players, maybe 35,000 that fall under the NCAA. So at Queens College and at probably many universities, what I heard from was a student athlete months ago who told me that they're worried amongst themselves that one of them could do some serious harm to a child because there's an elementary school right next to the baseball field. It's on campus at Queens College. People can Google Earth Queens College. So these young men are going through psychological trauma currently because they are worried. Maybe there's some university students that are oblivious to it at their universities. Maybe others are not and keeping it inside. But we want to bring in our perspective. We do not feel we're overstepping here. We're feeling like we're listening to the concerns of the student athletes. I don't know how many colleges there are. We're going to get into that as well, and how many of them have situations where balls are leaving their field over the sides and potentially hitting bystanders or children. So it's all very new. It's all part of what we do with Foul Ball Safety Now. We take in all of these experiences. So the freedom for baseball players is telling these students, and we will get the word out to, I don't know how many, 50,000 college baseball players, that if they are feeling something in silence, they should share it. So people can see the Freedom for Baseball Players new tab, and I'll probably find a college baseball player who wants to make some money on the side, and he can connect with all his baseball buddies. And if they're feeling the trauma, if they're feeling the stress, we want to hear about it. And let's shake it up a little bit, make some noise on all campuses. We know what happened at 169 professional fields in the MLB Partner League and the MLB, who pays the salaries of minor leaguers in 120 cities, including what happened in Modesto, California, where, yes, there was somebody outside the ballpark who was waiting to go in, and people can see the tab "Unknown Modesto." So, unfortunately, a woman was struck in the head in July of 23. We got contacted by a lawyer earlier this spring who was working on a case. Then we learned over the summer through a law school student that that case was settled. But maybe for 2 whole years, or at least from the time the woman got hurt in July of 23, nobody knew in Modesto, California, maybe you needed to walk around the parking lot or around the grounds with some kind of umbrella because balls were clearly going out. I believe 10 or 15 balls are going outside the ballpark within a 3-hour period, and it's gonna either hit the pavement, it's gonna either hit the car window, or in this case, it hit the woman's head. And that's what's happening in Queens College. Shohei Ohtani, we have that tab, the Shohei Ohtani vulnerability. Obviously, these baseball players have been playing a lot longer than these college athletes, but you see a moment in the World Series where Shohei Ohtani hit a line drive down the line, and he thought maybe he hit a security guard or a fan. He cringed for a moment. So we want to take away the cringeworthy moments for the student athlete. We want to take the cringeworthy moments for the professional athlete. The young students are still developing their moral compass, and we don't feel like they should settle on going to play their sport, worried about whether they're going to hit somebody or not in that time. So I think we're pretty good. We'll get into other things, and we look forward to hearing from our guest. So, Brianna, how are you today?
I'm good, Jordan. Happy to be here. Very important discussion that we're going to have today. So, without further ado, I'd like to bring on our guest, Dr. Patty McDonald. She is a professor, a technology consultant, and an actress. Patty, welcome.
Hi, how are you guys today?
Hi, Patty. Good to have you.
Sure. So I'm going to give you a warning. I'm from Boston, so there's you do not sound like you are. So
I'm
there
not that far down
I hope
south
I
from
hope there's no
where you are
conflict.
from. Oh, yeah.
I am
Well, I'm a little
so
further down south now. I'm in Florida, but originally from New
okay.
York.
A
Yeah.
good neutral
Yeah.
area. So
Yeah.
I am curious. I was listening to the news, the latest. I was curious if you've ever talked to Jim Rice about his experience and his heroicism in 1982 with saving a boy who got hit with a foul ball during a game.
Yes, we do know the story, and we did reach out to him and his speakers bureau, but to no avail. He
Uh,
is in the business of speaking and getting a
yeah.
fee, and that's not something I was interested in doing. Brendan and I have interviewed more than 80 people. People are not getting paid to be interviewed, victims,
Okay.
baseball players, etc.
Yeah, so I guess I start there because that was my earliest memory. I won't share my
Mhm.
age, but I was alive
All
and,
right, all right.
when that occurred, there was
Sure.
quite a long delay until Fenway Park did something about it. Now it's encouraging to see Fenway Park, a much safer place, and so I'm curious, what current gaps do you see in historic baseball arenas? Is there still more work to be done?
Oh, absolutely, and I would say whatever Fenway or Yankee Stadium or Citi Field has done, it's maybe an improvement. I can tell you and tell everyone to go to Foul Ball Safety Now. Actually, go to YouTube and check out Yankees versus Orioles, June 22nd, and about the 8-minute marker of a 15-minute video, you're going to see a bat go over the net. And why is business as usual allowing a baseball player who sometimes loses the bat, it slips out of your hand, understood. But why is it business as usual that bats are flying over nets at Yankee Stadium? Similar during the playoffs, we all saw together, people can go to Foul Ball Safety Now and look at the link, T-Mobile Park bat incident. The bat goes over the net into the seats. Nobody knew it had gone over the net into the seats. This was actually a broken bat coming into the seats like a spear. I didn't know about that till about 5 minutes later when they broke the commercial. They actually showed it in slow motion going over the net from the seating perspective, and you heard the announcer saying, "Yikes, look out." And we
Wow.
have a video capturing that. So I think we're all under some illusion that improvements are solutions. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
they're not.
That's interesting. I didn't think of the bat. I mean, I think folks probably don't think about that not only is the ball a projectile and watch out for it, but just the bat and splintering of the bat. That's fascinating. And has things improved? Well, I know things have improved, but what kind of other solutions are people considering to prevent bats and balls just getting into the stadiums?
Right. So it really starts with the three of us talking. And once this conversation gets out there, you know how it goes at conferences and town halls. Everyone's barking out solutions. So we
Mhm.
believe it's above our pay grade. You know,
Yeah.
MIT right down the road from you is waiting to be commissioned a certain amount of money saying, hey, we'll fix your problem. You know, this is what we propose. I can give you five different ideas on
Yeah.
how to address the matter: much higher nets, you know, Iron Dome technology, knock the ball out from coming outside somehow, some way. Just all kinds of things that at the end of the day needs to finally start. We need to finally address that business as usual in 2025 is the dark ages.
Yeah.
Brianna is finding so many things. She's finding so many injuries that we had no idea about.
I think, as you've been saying, Patty, there have been a lot of improvements, and maybe it creates this sort of facade that they've fixed the problem. But what we found this year in 2025, if you go to the website, it's called Incidents Reported 2025. It is sad to say a very long list of incidents that have happened just this past season of fans who are self reporting their injuries because at this point in time, the MLB is not required to report any fan injuries, and it seems to not be doing very well in the news, so journalists aren't really writing about it. There was a period of time in, like, 2019 where journalists were, like, reporting every single incident. It was making big news, but they kind of have gone quiet on the subject. The only way that we're finding out about these injuries is people are posting videos of what they're seeing, people getting struck at the ballpark. People are posting pictures of it happening to them, their black eyes, their bruised legs. You know, "This happened to me at this game," and it's very shocking to see, but it just further shows that we really need to work to solve this problem and get the word out there so it doesn't happen to anyone else because some of these injuries are minor, bruise, and it goes away, but a lot of them are life-changing. We know of many people that have been blinded and sadly 2 deaths that have occurred at the major league level. So, a brain injury is nothing to play about, you know,
Yeah.
those side effects can last a lifetime.
I can relate. My dad's a neurologist. I'm not a real doctor, but he is. I am curious. So, I always think sort of data and research. That's
Sure.
sort of where my brain goes. I love talking about my family, but my daughter worked for the Cape Cod Baseball League
Okay.
for a couple summers. That's minor league. I know you're broad. You talked about the college field. What I noticed a lot was what you mentioned with people being hit on the outside coming into the game, but it was a running joke how many cars were hit, by some of these minor league fields, and some of the, insurance claims that are made against teams, because of this. I'm curious if you ever cross-reference people being hit and then property being hit because I know it's all about money and people investing money
Yep.
in solutions. Well, I'm sure insurance companies would love to not have to pay money for these claims, for their, personal property that are getting hit by foul balls. I'm curious if you ever looked at it from that angle.
You know, maybe one of the elephants in the room is the baseball rule, because baseball as an industry hasn't been incentivized to address the issue. So, whatever claims they've had or any high profile incidents that occurred, Brianna was mentioning a minute ago about in 2019, there was more reporting about it. There were a few national studies, but at the same time, there was so many other injuries that probably went under the radar because maybe people at that time with their phones started self-reporting their injuries. Brianna and I are going down these rabbit holes 2024, 2023, 2022. We're trying to see if people were self-reporting their injuries. But back in 2019, there was a high-profile injury of a child getting injured. That's how I kind of came on board. And I didn't even know about a high-profile injury of a two-year-old at Yankee Stadium from 2017 until I started back in 2019. So The baseball rule is a deterrent when you are hurt by a baseball. It is a deterrent for a lawyer to take on the case. So we believe that many lawyers have rejected taking on the case because they would have to do 30 hours worth of work and find out their case wouldn't go anywhere. So they don't really want to take on the case because it's a lot of work. But the children of a high profile, the deals are sometimes they may go to court. You may find a lawyer, and then if we ever showed you, Patty, all these things we're learning that goes on within the proceedings, it'll make your head scratch. You'd be like, why is MLB putting these plaintiffs through the ringer
Yeah.
to get what they deserve? And unfortunately, we're going to make that public eventually as well because court proceedings are public information. We want everyone to see that most of us have not been affected. Your family memories are preserved as wholesome and apple pie. But once you learn about this, we believe 70, 80 million fans are all going to be wondering what they may have missed. And that's what we'll ultimately do. And they could
Yeah.
decide for themselves. We want to create an epiphany of awareness. And then if
Yeah.
everyone wants to get a little more into it, we want them to as well.
I mean, litigation, anything is expensive and adversarial. And I was just sort of illuminating sort of the paperwork insurance field, which is very different.
Mm,
It's just
yes.
publicly
It's
accessible
it's it,
data,
it,
no
it's
injury objects.
Yeah, unfortunately, no insurance companies have cried out about anything. We haven't heard from the insurance companies. It's funny that you bring up insurance companies. You may have seen the same, maybe Allstate or Geico commercial where the guy is all summer long because it's baseball season. The theme is the guy has a bat. He's always
Yeah.
this guy who gets black and blued in these insurance commercials, same actor. He takes the bat and he throws it and it goes over the fence, right? And it hits the window, cling, crash right into the windshield. So
Yep.
they're constantly showing that because they know that baseball fans are watching it. So they just want to keep it like an
That's
interesting
fascinating.
theme in the commercial.
I love learning more about this, but sort of advocacy through education and through. I'm just curious. You mentioned colleges. What other colleges are kind of maybe taking the lead on baseball safety and education?
We want everyone to, take a look at what's happening at their college. I don't know of what colleges are experiencing this matter of day-to-day concern. We do know of a high school in Tennessee, a booster contacted me and he wrote me a letter saying, "Would you help us with netting? We cannot have soccer games going on simultaneously while we have baseball games." And I was like, I'm glad at least they're thinking about the issue. That's good. I wrote them back. I said, your situation is not so unique. I wish you the best of luck. If there's anything I could do, please let me know. At least they're talking about it. I know of a suburb in Philadelphia where a woman is near a high school field and her house is getting belted with baseballs and her kids can't go outside during baseball activities because the balls are leaving the field and hitting her house. And as you know, Modesto, California, with the woman who was seriously struck by a foul ball and can't work anymore. And I don't know the extent of her head injury, but it doesn't sound great. So this is just something we need to have a conversation about. Some student athletes may remain oblivious to the matter about whether they're experiencing that or not. Their parents should be probably be stepping up because their young adult children are being exposed to being compromised playing the game that the kids love. So there's definitely another conversation to be had. But we're targeting Queens College. If people see the tone of my letters to the Queens College administration and now the NCAA, it's not at Queens College alone. It could be all over. And that's why we came out with this week, Freedom for Baseball Players. As the Queens College student was representing his team, and he didn't even wanna talk to me on the record, because I asked him if he'd like to be interviewed by Brendan and I. He says, "If I interview with you, Jordan, my unborn child in 20 years from now won't be able to be playing baseball." Like, he would be some kind of outlier whistleblower, and I'm like, "That's a little deep." I said, "I'm happy to talk to you and your team. If you're experiencing anxiety, we should talk about it." And you'll see the letters if you haven't read them in detail. I want people to, at Foul Ball Safety Now, to find the Queens College investigation. It's ongoing. It may center around Queens, but I think it really has there's a conversation here for probably all the universities and all the 169 professional ballparks that have lower sides and balls are flying out. And as you mentioned, maybe in the Cape Cod League. And I haven't gotten to that. That's not part of my 169. So I'll look into that as well.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to increase the
No.
scope.
Oh, no, of course not. We just want people to jump in, and we want to address all the matters. I think we're all better off knowing as a society what is really happening in the minds of the 20-year-olds and for the spectators or the bystanders that are outside the ballpark. Everyone is affected.
What is your personal goal of talking to a lot of folks and getting their opinions just to raise awareness, to change like
We want 70 million baseball fans to rethink their own experiences, present, past. We want agencies that may have not known anything about this to possibly say something like, we should have heard about this 40 years ago. There was a
Mhm.
14-year-old boy who died at Dodger Stadium in 1970. There are 14, 15, and 16-year-olds working in those sections in their first jobs, and they don't know anything about OSHA and things like that. Coincidentally, Patty, we had an OSHA employee on this broadcast because she is also pursuing acting on the side. How about that? That wasn't too long ago. She was a great guest, and she was fine with us using all of our recordings. So she had a really great attitude and said she would look into it. Right? I mean, who
Yeah.
are we? We're just people that are putting information out there. We're reporting about it, and we feel like journalists should be going more long form on this matter as well. We
Yeah.
all want to know something we may have missed. We're confident that 80 million, 70, 80 million baseball fans are all of the attitude of if there's something important we may have missed, please share it. The Ken Burns constituents is probably our target audience for these recordings because he has 50,000 people that have already engaged with his content. And he did a long form piece on baseball 30 years ago, and he did another one about 15 years ago. So those are the people, this micro contents, generation. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in having real discussion.
Mhm.
And those are the
Interesting.
people that are interested in taking in some real discussion. So we'll be knocking on their doors.
I'm curious,
Yeah.
have you
Yes.
reached
Right.
out to just I know I always talk about the root cause, like the
Course.
baseball bat, the bats, the balls, like the actual
Mhm.
things are getting harder, faster with the sport. I'm just curious if you've talked to the people that make the equipment.
Whether it's coming at you 90 miles an hour or 110, it's still coming at you. So I
Yeah,
don't think that really has anything to do with it. I don't need to inflate the narrative by saying, "Oh, the balls are coming in a lot faster than they did 30 years ago."
yeah,
Ask my lawyer's friend, my lawyer Lynn, who introduced me to her girlfriend who was blinded at Shea Stadium in 1979. She's one of the 80 people we've interviewed. We've interviewed probably 20 victims and family members, and a few of them were blinded in one eye, including Jenny. She was very kind to revisit her experience with us from what happened to her, because it was years later. And she even told us an interesting story. As a parent, after her incident years later, she's a mom and a little leaguer is playing, her son is playing little league, and what happens is she's feeling anxiety because of what happened to her. And she
mhm,
shared that with us. She was like, I was relieved that he quit baseball because she didn't have to deal with that present anxiety in her life,
mhm.
kind of like swept under the rug. And maybe that child is telling his own, he's maybe 30 years old now, and maybe he's telling his own child, maybe you don't want to play baseball. Look what happened to your grandmother. So these
Yeah, that
we know
yeah.
these victims. We know they're purgatory. They don't know how to feel about the game. They never got a genuine apology, and there really is none because it could happen on the next pitch or the next day. So baseball can't really extend an apology.
It's sad. I think I like the perspective. I don't think you're trying to change the game, and it's sad that the
Mhm,
baseball player that you referenced from Queens College feels like he would be a pariah speaking about it. I think what you're trying is to
mhm.
what if I'm echoing this correctly, that you're just trying to
Yeah.
change the environment to make it safer for folks to watch the game and enjoy the game and not have to fear about any injuries. So yeah, I think that's a great approach.
There is a lot of initial pushback from some baseball fans when they first hear about extended netting. You know, foul balls for so long have been this romanticized facet of baseball, which has been largely part of, like, the marketing scheme of the MLB. You know, and the game being over 100 years old, it's part of almost this ingrained tradition in the game. But I really believe that once people have access to this information and once they're educated and it becomes more readily available of just how often this is happening and the extent of the injuries, we can start to change people's minds and open people's minds to making the game safer so that nobody leaves the ballpark with, you know, a tragedy. But yeah, my perspective as a parent, you know, working with this campaign, I just personally feel like I know too much and I've seen too much. And I've become so intimate with these victims and their stories that I could never take my son to a game because I know that there's no stadium that can guarantee safety for my child, and it's just not a risk I'm willing to take. I don't feel like I'm athletic enough to stop, a ball from crushing his head, but even if I was, you know, if you look at all these videos of the professional players sitting in the dugout that do this for a living, when a foul ball comes sailing their way, nobody is trying to catch it, they're all getting out of the way. So, that's very telling in and of itself as well. But I do my best to just kind of educate people. I'm in Los Angeles, so we have the Dodgers, we have the Angels, and going to the ballpark is a common family activity here. I know for sure Dodger Stadium, they have kids' playgrounds in a couple places in the ballpark. So it is heavily marketed towards children, and I try to educate people to the best of my ability that there is no guaranteed safety, there is no guaranteed section. There's still projectiles in 2025 going over the netting. And so just trying to make people aware of this.
We do know of other fields that used to have playgrounds, Patty, for sure, that may have exposed children to foul balls or home run balls. So worthy of a further discussion. Love to have a college student investigate all the ballparks that have ever been built, and we could all discover just how many of them did have playgrounds where children were exposed. And maybe now they have awnings, but did they know then when there were no awnings, that kind of thing. But this is the work we do. There's still 30 to 40 ballparks, Patty, in professional baseball that still have no netting past end of dugouts. And that being said, it's horrific. We all saw this video in 2019, which we call Exhibit A. It shows line drives going into sections just past the end of the dugouts where no human being should be there. A baseball player on his night off will not be there. As Brianna said, when they're in the dugout, they're getting out of the way. 100 feet away, just past end of dugouts from home plate, you'll see this video. That was 6 years ago. And why is just those 30 to 40 cities in professional baseball that we know of that still have no netting past end of dugouts? And that umpire we call Exhibit A2, Hunter Windelstadt, this was earlier in the year. He's 90 feet away from home plate, plus probably another 10 feet behind, and he's looking, staring without blinking, and he gets it right in the head. We're not superheroes, we never were. Unfortunately, we never will be. So I don't think we're in a position or ever was in a position.
Okay. And what is some of the pushback you're getting from folks like me that
Mhm.
I don't know all the ins and outs, so I just wanted to give you
Sure.
understand that.
It's not really pushback, it's more like, I think, inconvenient truth. I think the legacy of baseball doesn't want to acknowledge what they knew. You know, there's a component a judge used in a case, was a new term to me, willful wanton conduct. So she said something in Rybarski versus White Sox. This is a case, Rybarski being the plaintiff and the White Sox of 2018 being the defendant. She said something like, prior to the season, the White Sox had advanced knowledge that the nets were not high enough, far enough, wide enough. So things to that nature, they know in the winter months, Patty, more or less what happened the year before. Everything's been statcasted for the last decade or two. People can see Exhibit A1 from 2019, which is the 538 published report of 2019. Brendan and I incorporated our own notes into, and we put out earlier this year. It demonstrates that baseball knows exactly how many foul balls there were the year before and what they could expect this year and where they're going to go and how fast they're going to go and whether 4-year-olds should be sitting there or not. And unfortunately, that's mud on their face. So the more people who get exposed to this conversation will hopefully conclude that and maybe decide for themselves just how much mud on their face is there really. Baseball fans, they're not employees of the game. So I'm confident 80 million people are not employees and they're free to speak. So that's what we'll do. We'll bring information to the fans and from their own experiences, and they can decide how they want to feel. So that's exciting.
Okay, great. I don't think I have any more questions. I just think I need to get a little more knowledge on this topic.
Of course, that's what we do. That's what I'm doing for 6 years. It's unfortunately, an issue. We're still in the dark ages, and sometimes families don't wanna have their memories disrupted with, "Why didn't I know about this?" But I think most people will be feeling like, "Tell me what I may have missed." So we're banking on that, and I think the conversation will get wider.
I think a reaction that we get a lot of times when we bring this issue to people is, "Oh my gosh, I had no idea." Certainly before I met Jordan, I had no idea that this was an issue or even a possibility, really. So, Patty, as an educator, why do you think most people are unaware of this?
It's the frequency of how many times they go to the ballpark. Going to baseball games is just a part of their, overall activity, and they go once a year, twice a year. They may not be living and breathing this world. It's probably number 1. They may not like me, I don't have a child playing baseball. Other sports injuries are becoming extremely I just think of a parallel sport like football and head injuries with football. That's getting a lot of has had a lot of research and visibility, in the media about, like I said, my dad's a neurologist, so I know a lot about, like, those type of brain injuries. I think folks may just don't wanna think of a negative aspect of a beloved sport, and no one wants to think a negative aspect of football or baseball, and they wanna enjoy the game, and I would just say there's just so many competing priorities of problems in the world. This may not come out as one of them if you don't have a direct connection to the baseball game, unless, sadly, you get injured or or you're part of, like, a baseball industry. That's my opinion. It's not based on any facts.
That was great. This was really great, guys. I really appreciate you exploring this and getting curious with us, and this was
Mhm.
really kind of you to join us on just before Thanksgiving. So I
No
think,
problem.
this was a nice recording, and it was very productive, and I want everyone to pay attention to what we're doing at Foul Ball Safety Now, and you can see all the links, and we look forward to doing it again soon. So
Okay,
thanks
great.
again, everyone.